The Digital Photography Cafe show is brought to you by Focus Pyramid, the autofocus lens calibration tool for your camera, and by ShootProof, the easy way to proof and sell your photos online.
Welcome to the Digital Photography Cafe show. Join hosts Trevor Curran and Joseph Christina as they chat about the art and business of photography.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the show. This is episode 141. I'm Joseph Christina. On last week's episode, we looked at the Padcaster Mini, Pixelmator, a Photoshop alternative, Rookie Photo Editor for your smartphone, and gave you some tips and tricks for your photo business. If you haven't watched last week's show, I encourage you to do so. You can find it at our website, digitalphotographycafe.com, in iTunes, listen with the popular Stitcher, TuneIn, and Xbox Music apps, or watch in HD on TiVo. So, all right, guys, we are back. It's another week. We're at episode 141 this week. Wow. So this week's going to be a little bit different. We're going to kind of shorten it down a little bit. We might make two shows out of it. What this week is all about is the gear. And if most of you that are in the photo community for a long period of time, they know, you know about WPPI, you know about Photo Plus Expo, you know about Photokina, hopefully overseas. Well, in Japan, in Yokohama, they have a photo expo called CP Plus. And what that is let's just look at it similar to like a Photo Plus Expo out of NYC, out of New York. Whereas it's a trade show, they have, all of the big names that are there. They have all the seminars going on and whatnot, and they do a lot of new and upcoming things. They'll show there. They'll introduce. So that was from February 13th through the 16th. Once again, that's in Japan. So a lot of neat gear, brand new stuff, things that we kind of talked to you about in the past couple of shows that were rumored actually came to fruition and were introduced there in Japan just yesterday, a couple of days ago now, from the time of the show. So we're going to, like I said, shorten it up a little bit, maybe make two shows out of it so it's not so gear heavy, but we don't have a choice. This is just there's so much cool stuff that came out that we just need to tell you about it, so at least you know, and kind of inform you about it. But anyways, so let's start out with Sigma. So we know that Sigma, I've always been a fan of Sigma because I do like a foveation sensor. I like the way it works. So they kind of rethink their DP line, their DP series. And it's kind of interesting. It's, just some backstory on it. Just think of the DP line as being like a camera that has that foveation sensor in it. It's smaller, it's compact in comparison to one of their big SD, like a 14 or something, like one of their big model cameras. This is more of a point and shoot style camera, but it's really a powerful camera at that. So they kind of changed it up a bit. The internals changed, but the external really, really changed. So starting out with the internal, still you got your foveation, your APS-C sensor, which is a foveation sensor. If you don't know what a foveation sensor is in comparison to like a standard CMOS, even though it was CMOS, the way it works is like this. Instead of capturing the image and then analyzing that, looking at the sensor and each dot on it has a blue portion, a red portion, a yellow portion, it doesn't work like that. What happens is it comes in three layers. So you have like your red layer, which is like one layer. Then you have your next layer, which is blue, and you have your anyways. So the way it works is it's done on light wave and how the light penetrates through these layers. So it is a neat way of capturing an image because you get really good color accuracy. So if you're trying to take photographs that are extremely color accurate, a foveation sensor might be for you. As far as low light goes, well, some of the, take a Canon or a Nikon, usually they'll do better at the low light. Their low light capability is better. So as far as the foveation sensor, I do like it because I am a fan of getting color accuracy. I am a fan, especially if we do food photography. It's really, really important, and it does an amazing job at it. So this new one is called the DP Quattro, and it comes in 3 different models. It comes in a DP1, DP2, and DP3. One with a 28 millimeter, 45 millimeter, and I think it's a 75 millimeter lens. What I do like is each one of those lenses come straight 2.8. Not this meandering around. I hate that variable f-stop. I like something that's consistent. And this is consistent. 2.8 right across all of them. So that's really nice. I like that. I like that a lot. As I said, I like the Foveon sensor a lot. So all in all, we're doing good, right, guys? It sounds pretty neat, pretty good. Now all of a sudden they come up with this body. They redesigned this body completely. And if you look at it, it looks just like like a pack of cigarettes elongated or something. It's square. I mean, the ergonomics on it, I don't know. I haven't held one as of yet, this new model, but it just doesn't look right. I don't know. It just doesn't look like it would be a comfortable fit in your hands. But I guess that's yet to be seen. It does have, they're saying that it's about 29 megapixels, but remember, whenever you're dealing with Foveon, they're kind of taking those 3 layers, dividing them up, and then giving you a total. So for example, one layer is 19 megapixels. The second layer is 5 megapixels. The next layer is 5 megapixels. And then they add them all up and they come up with 29. Is it a true 29? To me, no, it's not. But essentially it is. So, there's 2 schools of thought, maybe even 3 on the whole matter, but we're at the point that megapixels really don't matter, or not too much anymore. It's just what can you get out of it, and what is the use, and what are you trying to achieve with it? If you're trying to achieve just amazing color, these are great sensors to go with. If you're trying to shoot extremely low light, ISO 1600 and above, this is probably not the sensor for you. Anyway, specs on it. 100 to 6400 ISO, which makes sense, right? That's 6400 in comparison to something up to around 24K. 29 megapixels, like I said, it does RAW, 14-bit RAW. Where it falls off a little bit is shutter speed. It does a maximum of 1/2000th of a second as far as the shutter speed. I don't like that. And I know you guys have heard this in the past from me. I want the 8,000th of a second shutter speed. I want to be able to go shoot, an extremely bright light. I just like that, having that ability to do so and not having to worry about such a slow, quote unquote, fast shutter speed. So anyways, not a fan of that. It has the rear monitor. It's a 3-inch monitor, which is, the usual. It's at 920K as far as the pixel resolution on it, which is good enough. And well, the cost is yet to be seen. They really have not said when it'll be available. They showed it, but they didn't say when is it going to be released, what the price will be. So it's kind of, yet to be seen. But I do like that they're kind of rethinking this model, this line, and turning it into something that's completely, and I've said this in the past, you have Canon and you have Nikon, you have the major players, and they do things that are just simply, status quo, let's say. They will kind of reinvent things as needed or extremely slowly, and they'll just keep doing the same thing over and over and just do slight, iterations to them. The innovation it's slow, definitely slow. I mean, in general. Whereas the other companies like a Sony or a Sigma or a Fuji or something, they're doing these things that are more radical because they can. So that's what they're doing here with this camera. It's a little bit more radical. We'll see how you guys like it. I want to hear back from you. Once you see it, take a look at it. We'll throw it up on the screen. We'll also throw it into the notes where you can go and read the press release if you want to read more about it. But all in all, I do like it. I like the sensor. I like the way it works. I like that they're kind of reinventing things a little bit. They're making the processing faster. And it's my understanding that the color, the saturation, the richness, the depth is even better than before, when we know it's been great forever as is. So moving forward, Sony. Like we said, all the major manufacturers are represented, so you're going to hear something from most of them. So Sony has the Super Fast, is what they call it, A6000. Now, they're saying basically this A6000 is a replacement to the NEX line, the NEX6, the NEX7. And when you read through the specs, it really seems to be just that. It's 24 megapixels, which is great. It has an APS-C CMOS sensor. I do like the hybrid autofocus. I am a fan of that, where it's doing autofocus based on not only phase detection, but it's also doing contrast. So it's getting the best of both worlds, as I would call it. Built-in flash, which is nice. It's got a multi-interface shoe at the top, which is always nice for doing external flash or whatever you would like to do. What really sets this apart, which I think is the holy crap moment here, is it's shooting 11 FPS, 11 frames per second. That is absolutely nuts. That is fast. That's like sports guys are going to be like, oh my God, this is great. I mean, we would have to pay a lot of money for extreme high FPS back in the day. And now you're taking this little camera, this little Sony, and it's getting up to 11 FPS. That's really good. That's good. So anyways, 3-inch tilting rear monitor, which is good. The OLED, of course, 1.5 million dots on it. So it looks absolutely wonderful when you look through the eyepiece, the quote unquote viewfinder. Of course, it shoots the video just like everything else. So it does 1080p, both 24 as well as 60. I like the 60. I like anything that shoots 60, just in case you want to do slow-mo with it. It's great to be able to cut that speed in half and be able to really slow things down without losing the look of it, not degrading the capture at all. And it's my understanding that it does produce a really clean HDMI out, which is good. That is really good. Sometimes you'll have cameras that say, oh yeah, we have an HDMI out to view or whatnot. And then when you actually attach them, you're like, well, this is, maybe they should have not even put this in. So supposedly this has an extremely clean HDMI out connection. It does Wi-Fi as well as NFC. And one thing that's cool, we talked about this in the past a few weeks ago, is the downloadable apps. Any of these cameras that have this more of a, let's say, open architecture, I like them a lot. This one is not necessarily open, but it gives you downloadable apps. I think it's really cool because I'm gonna say right here and now, Canon and Nikon are gonna need to get on the ball, and they're gonna end up having to go this route, because what this allows you to do with these downloadable apps is kind of like the sky's the limit. And we've seen when we were at Photo Plus Expo this year at NYC in New York, some just cool application where you didn't need any external anything. Where, for example, we were at one booth where someone took our photo, and within a split second, that photo was up online, ready to be shared through social media. So it actually did its processing internal to the camera, sent it through the Wi-Fi signal right there, and it was on the server, within seconds. And that is just really cool stuff that, during an event, wow. You take this with you, and you take some snaps that the event guys want to be able to, let's say, play up on the big screen during like an intermission or whatnot. You could do that. You could have like a second, you could have an assistant with you taking some of these photos that they could use then on site, that these guys back in the media room can download just right then and there and have them playing. It's really, really neat. Also, these applications can be used for purchasing, for adding tag data, metadata onto it before it sends it off, by branding it, all kinds. Like I said, the sky is the limit when you can put a downloadable app onto your camera in comparison to, quote unquote, onto your phone. Very neat. So moving forward, Canon. Now, well, let's just say this item is one of these items that I look at and I'm like, oh, I don't know how this is going to go over. So Canon introduced the T5. Now, if anyone's familiar with the Rebel line, they know they went from T3, they had T4, they had the T3i, T4i, so this line, this T5 is, let's say, the absolute dumbed down, lowest grade DSLR that they have come up with. Now, I guess they can look at it as a way of getting, let's say, folks into the Canon brand, getting them to buy their glass so that they keep them as clients going forward. And that's really the nature of the beast. The manufacturers, once they get you, they usually keep you because the glass is so expensive. And that's why when we're talking to students or whatnot, and we're giving, let's say, a talk on the business side or the art side, they're like, oh, what camera to buy? What do you use? Well, the first thing that I'll say is find out which camera you like the best and go for that camera, and know that you're probably going to stick with that camera or that camera manufacturer because the glass is so expensive. So really do your research. Like I was saying with the Sigma and the whole foveal sensor. Well, if color integrity is just paramount to what you're doing in your photographic venture, well, a foveal sensor would be the way to go. Maybe you get the top end Sigma. If low light is where you need to be, you would go, let's say, for a Nikon or a Canon. If you need to capture video and you need to do it to the highest grade possible on the DSLR side, well, then you might go. So really think about what you're getting before you jump in here, because chances are you are going to marry that manufacturer. And that's just the bottom line. So anyways, this T5. Now, it is, like I said, a stripped down Rebel. It is, let's say, it replaces the 2011 T3, let's say. It's 18 megapixel CMOS. It's the APS-C. So, it's a decent size sensor. It's got a Digix 4 processor in it. 9-point of autofocus, which is ridiculous at this time. I don't think there's any cameras out there coming out new with 9 points of autofocus. But check this out. 3 FPS. That is abysmal. 3 frames per second capture rate. Really? I don't think there is anything slower than that. I don't know of any DSLR that's slower than that. That is really crazy slow. So, if speed of capture is your thing, well, this is definitely not for you. It's doing ISO 100 to 6400. It does capture video 1080 at 30p. And it comes with a kit lens, which is like an 18 to 55 and the price on it is interesting. It's $550. So $550. Think about this. You can go right now and get a T3i, which is, to me, far superior, and it's an older camera, a couple-year-old camera, and I think the T3i will be cheaper. So I don't know where Canon's going with this. This, to me, is not something that I know of anyone that would be really interested in, and I really couldn't possibly say this is something even for a beginner. I just wouldn't go down this road. Now, I could see maybe Canon, like I said, is using this as a way of just getting people into the Canon line, but I just don't think that this is for anyone. So, but anyways, that's my opinion. So we have a lot more to come, but before we go any further, let's go ahead and take a quick break to hear from a couple of sponsors.
As photographers, we're always trying to increase sales and profits after every event.
We shoot an event and have hundreds or even thousands of images that just sit on our hard drives.
Perhaps a better workflow would increase sales by getting those valuable images in front of the client.
That's where ShootProof comes in. At shootproof.com, you can have an online gallery for all of your clients' proofing needs.
ShootProof helps increase profits while building your brand and securing your photos without charging commission fees on sales.
ShootProof galleries display your photos beautifully while helping to streamline your workflow and automate more of your business through their intuitive studio control panel.
Once approved, photos can be directly fulfilled through ShootProof's various professional lab partners or fulfilled by you.
All ShootProof plans have the same feature set. You simply choose the number of client photos stored, decide what products to sell, and the price.
Try ShootProof today by taking advantage of their free 30-day trial offer.
As a Digital Photography Cafe viewer, ShootProof is offering a 20% discount off any of their premium plans by using promo code DPC20 at checkout.
ShootProof. Upload, share, sell, print. Are you frustrated with slightly out of focus images when you know your autofocus spot was dead on? It's simply not your fault. From manufacturer to manufacturer, and even lens copy to lens copy, there are slight variances to the exact spot where light is being focused onto the sensor. Finally, there's a product that allows you to compensate for those variances and make sharper images immediately. Focus Pyramid, the autofocus lens calibration tool, is an absolute must for every photographer. If you want to make the sharpest images possible, then you need to take control over your camera's focusing system. With the Focus Pyramid, you can calibrate all of your lenses on your lunch break. The Focus Pyramid makes lens calibration quick and easy at an affordable price. So give your lenses a new lease on life and take your photography to the next level. Head over to focuspyramid.com/DPC and get an additional 10% off just for being a show listener.
Sorry, guys, we are back. Back to Canon. So Canon releases a camera called the G1X, which is a Mark II. Now, many of us pros out there have had or know other pros that have had, a G12, G13, 14, 15, 16. That whole PowerShot line is just an incredibly great camera as a second camera or as a carry-along camera for a pro because it gives so many manual features in dial type of format. It's very much so like a expensive DSLR in a miniature format, in a little carry around point and shoot. So here's the G1X, the Mark II, and it looks great in comparison to what we were just talking about with this T5. So yeah, this Mark II G1, it's sitting at 12.8 megapixel sensor. It's got the fast Digic 6, latest and greatest Digic 6, extremely fast processing. It has a 24 to 120 equivalent millimeter lens that ranges from 2.0 to 3.9. Now, it's not a consistent 2.8. I'm very much a fan of. It does kind of meander a little bit from 2 to 3.9, but it's not really moving too much. Let's say I still would like to see a consistent f-stop, but it's fast. A 2.0 there's a ton of light coming in there, so I like that, and I like that a lot, especially for this type of fixed lens. So it is what it is. Not consistent, but it's still extremely fast glass. It goes from 100 to 12,800 ISO, which is good. Points for autofocus, 31 points. That makes more sense, right? Compared to the 9 that we were talking about a minute ago. It has the articulating back screen, which is fantastic, 3-inch. 1080p, which is the norm as far as video. It has built-in Wi-Fi and NFC. We keep hearing NFC. It seems like most of the major camera manufacturers now are putting NFC into the cameras, which is good because we've said this a long time, like over a year ago, that NFC is the way to go. NFC needs to be in these cameras. They started out with the smartphones, and then NFC started coming into a lot of those, and now we're seeing them into the cameras also, along with the Wi-Fi connection. So see some really cool things happen with NFC probably in the next year or so, I'm going to guess, now that there's a lot more of the major manufacturers are bringing that technology into their bodies. Anyway, so I definitely think that this is ideal for anyone that has like that G12 or whatnot that's sitting in the closet that they want to upgrade, and or they're a DSLR shooter and they don't have a second camera that they can use. I mean, you can put this on manual, throw on a external flash, or even shoot wireless with it and get some amazing photos that you wouldn't even know were taken not with your large DSLR. So it's very capable, let's say, and it gives you a lot of the manual things that you like with your DSLR. So it's going to be right around $800, I believe. Now, remember, like a G16, if you were to go buy that today, it's going to cost you $500. And the G16 compared to this, there's no comparison. So for, $300 more, I would say yes, jump on this immediately. I think this is a great replacement to any of you guys, like I said, with those old, G11, G12, and on and on and on power shots. So as far as a walk around, I would give this definitely 2 thumbs up. There's only a few camera manufacturers out there that I would say can really cut it when it comes to the use of let's say a professional using it and saying, I feel comfortable with it and I know I'm going to get good images out of it. And this one is definitely one of those. So moving forward, Blackmagic. Now, we are a fan of Blackmagic. We like the product. For video capture, they understand what we need as storytellers, and they give you a product that is very easy to use and very basic at the look, at the functionality, and how you use it. It's very easy. And I would say it's probably one of my favorite cameras as far as in comparison to like a Red one or something. But the Blackmagic is really interesting. So they come up with this Blackmagic. It's a 4K camera. But what is really kind of, I don't know how they did this, but they ended up lowering the price from the original price that they said by $1,000. So when we put out these rumors on this camera, few months back, I think the price we were saying was right around $4,000. Well, they're going to come in now at $2,900, or let's say $3,000. And what's really incredible about this camera is that it has that global shutter in comparison to a rolling shutter. And we discussed the difference between the rolling shutter and the global shutter last week. So if you have not listened to that show last week, please go and listen, because we give a really good description, or we should give you a good understanding of what the difference is. But in short, the difference between a rolling shutter and a global shutter is simply the idea of a jello effect. And if anyone has shot video with DSLRs, they know if there's anything fast moving in the frame, what happens? The image starts turning into jello, and it's like vibrating. It's like mush. It's horrendous. It's basically unusable. Well, then that's with that rolling shutter. With a global shutter, it's actually taking frame by frame by frame, and it's recording data, the entire frame at one shot, and then processing, in comparison with a rolling shutter where it's recording it, let's say top down or bottom up, and it's rolling and rolling. So if something's coming across the frame extremely quick, by the time it captures the top line on the sensor to the bottom line of the sensor as it rolls through, that pixel or that specific location has moved already. So you get that jello effect. Well, this camera at $2,900 has that global shutter on it, so you don't have any of that. It's just like the cameras that you would see in the movies that they use, that are $20,000, $30,000, $40,000. Some of them are $200,000 as far as the cameras go. This does have that global shutter, and it's 4K. So in comparison to the 1080p, you're at 4K and you have a ton of data, and it's giving you raw data. So in comparison to a DSLR, the DSLR is going to basically give you JPEGs. That's how it works. Frames after frame after frame of JPEG. Here you're getting a raw image. Now, as we know as photographers, you go into Lightroom. What do? You go into Lightroom, you can play with your exposure. You can play with your Kelvin, your color temperature. You can make major adjustments and correct for, let's say, low light or problematic, let's say, light or color. Now, by shooting RAW with this camera, you can do the same, but in video. It's awesome. Absolutely awesome. So you have, once again, to kind of recap, you have 4K over 1080. You have a global shutter in comparison to a rolling shutter, and you have, of course, RAW in comparison to these JPEGs. That gives you a huge amount of latitude as far as fixing stuff in post and doing color grading after the fact. So it has an APS-C sensor in it, which is big or big enough. Of course, you do your 1080p or you capture your 4K. However, it does capture in Apple's ProRes 422 HQ, which is your high quality, as well as Adobe's Cinema DNG RAW. And it does capture this direct to SSD. So you can't beat that. That is absolutely amazing. So at 4K, it will allow you to capture at 30p, 25p, and 24p. The only thing that I'd like to see here at that 4K is that 60p or higher to be able to do slow-mo. So if you're shooting a scene or you're shooting an advertisement or you're shooting a short or a movie, if you want to do any kind of slow-mo, you're still going to have to back it down to a 1080p and capture whatever you're going to do in slow-mo, or use something else that's going to be able to take you up to a 60p or 120 to get that higher frames per second, to be able to slow it down and not get any degradation. You know, as the image degrades, what happens is you can use less and less of it. Number one, and number two, you have to stay zoomed out as far as possible so you don't see the problems. In comparison to, you shoot 4K, you could zoom in like double, over triple sometimes, and you still have the same image quality as if you were all the way zoomed out, because there's so much data per frame, which is really cool. So I encourage you guys, if you do shoot, let's say, for example, a Canon 5D Mark III, let's say, and you shoot weddings, look at this camera. Take a look at it. Or maybe you shoot on the Nikon side, a D4, who knows. The thing is for that price, for that $2,900, you're going to be paying that anyways for a high-end DSLR for capturing video, just the same, which you're not going to get a global shutter. You're going to get a rolling shutter. You're not going to get 4K. You're going to get a single 1080 on that. And, of course, you're going to be shooting JPEG video. You're not going to be shooting RAW. So definitely look at it. The price is, I think, at this point, right for capturing high-end video at a very reasonable price. And definitely Blackmagic Productions has it. I would say they're probably at the top of the heap when it comes to this. So anyways, take a look at it. We're going to put some info in the show notes so you can go and look at it, and it might be something of interest to you. But anyways, guys, there's a lot more of stuff that came out of CP Plus. Maybe we're going to bring that into the next show, because if not, we're going to be running long for this show. So we need to get out of here. Hope you got some good data and got to hear about some new products without having to visit Yokohama, right, in Japan. So, all right, guys, we are done. If you'd like to get in contact directly with either myself or Trevor Current, you can do so through Twitter, and that's at Trevor Current, or at Joseph Christina, and that's Christina without an H. You can get all the show notes from this episode by visiting digitalphotographycafe.com/141. And don't forget to send your questions and comments to comments@digitalphotographycafe.com, or simply call 440-345-6707. Once again, that's 440-345-6707, and we will see you next week.
You've been watching the Digital Photography Cafe Show with Trevor Current and Joseph Christina. Be sure to subscribe to the show for free in iTunes or through RSS. You can also listen on Stitcher and TuneIn Radio and watch in HD on TiVo. Visit digitalphotographycafe.com for show notes and to connect with your hosts.